Yesterday, the Las Vegas Raiders signed Jimmy Garoppolo, and today we got a mock draft post Jimmy Garoppolo signing coming up because the Raiders probably don't need a quarterback anymore, right? They're probably in that position where they can probably go out and get something other than a quarterback, and we're going to talk about it. Let's jump right into it. The mock draft starts. You got Bryce Young, who's going to go number 1 to the Panthers. CJ Stroud goes number 2 to the Texans. Will Anderson goes number 3 to the Cardinals. First non-quarterback, of course. 4 is Anthony Richardson to the Colts. Jalen Carter goes 5. And Tyree Wilson goes 6. Now, those are probably the 6 guys that are going to go in the top 6, which puts the Raiders in an interesting situation because at this point, pre-Jimmy Garoppolo, you would have taken Will Levis, and some people may still take Will Levis. And let's say Levis goes and Anthony Richardson's still available, right? Let's say the Colts prefer Levis and Anthony Richardson's available. At 7, some people will still take Anthony Richardson. And that is something you have to consider, but I am going to give Jimmy Garoppolo the benefit of the doubt. His contract is at least 2 years guaranteed, so I do expect him to be here for at least 2 years, although the dead cap hits aren't that big. So for me, if I'm the Raiders, I'm going to focus a little bit on fixing some of the issues that the Raiders have. And I think just to start it off, I think the Raiders need to get another cornerback. There's one cornerback who I've now finished at least top 6 cornerbacks that, you know, the guys are first, second round picks. And there's one guy that sticks out to me, and it is not Devin Witherspoon. It is Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. To me, Christian Gonzalez is the best corner in this class. The guy's a special football player. He's a playmaker. Man coverage is through the charts. Now, he's not the best run defender, and that's part of his game that he'll have to work on just a little bit. But in terms of being a peer cover corner, that is him. In my opinion, he has the best ball skills. Maybe in this entire class, maybe Brian Branch maybe competes with him a little bit, but he's right there, right? So we're taking him number 1. Jumping into the second pick, this one's interesting because the Raiders could theoretically use a guard at this point, but I think there's some guards to be had a little bit later on, so I'm not going to get a guard, although I will say this, Steve Avila is a very solid football player, and I would consider him with pick 39, but I think guards could be had a little bit more. You know, I value corners, tackles, defensive line over I value guards, obviously, right? I think most teams kind of do. And for me, I'm going to look at every available defensive lineman because I think the Raiders got to figure out some of that interior pressure and those type of things, right? And not just the interior, right? Like, I would consider Mozzie Smith here from Michigan at this pick, but we're not going to take him because I don't think he provides the pass rush that I think the Raiders need from the interior. To me, if I'm going to wait here on taking an interior defensive lineman, or with this pick, if I'm going to take an interior defensive lineman, it has to be one of the top guys, right? Brian Brzee, Kalijah Kancey, Jalen Carter, right? And with 38, you're obviously not going to get Jalen Carter. But outside of those 3 guys, I don't know the pass rushing abilities that these other guys can provide. So I will go ahead and not take an interior guy. But I do think Will McDonald provides a unique upside for the Raiders. Similar to Chandler Jones in his skill set, I think McDonald is a guy that naturally will replace Jones. And for me, I'm taking Will McDonald. For me, I think the Las Vegas Raiders are in this position where they need to get after the quarterback consistently. And last year, Chandler Jones did not provide that consistently enough. So I think it's a good pick. Jumping into the 3rd round pick. This one's interesting because you can focus on some offensive production. A lot of really good running backs in this class. There are 10 running backs in this class that are going to be starters in the NFL. Like, we can look at the list of running backs right now. And I can tell you guys right now, Zach Charbonnet from UCLA, Devin Achane out of Texas A&M, Tank Bigsby, Tyjae Spears, Roschon Johnson. Some people are saying Roschon Johnson may be the best running back outside of Bijan Robinson, and the only reason why people don't recognize him more is because he was number 2 to Bijan Robinson at Texas. I'm going to wait on the running back here, but we will come back and look at the running backs with the 4th or 5th overall pick. Wide receivers, there are definitely some interesting guys. Tyler Scott, super quick. A couple other guys down the list. We're going to wait on wide receiver at this point as well. In the third round, I do like interior offensive linemen as well as tackles. The Raiders, I think, may need a tackle, but at this point, you may be able to wait as well. You may be able to get one of the free agent guys, maybe one of the cheaper options. You did bring back Brandon Parker, although personally, I probably wouldn't want Brandon Parker to be the full-time starter. But if the Raiders want a guard, and keep in mind the ranking of this guy isn't as high, but I think he's going to go so much higher than where his ranking actually is. I'm going to say Tyler Steen out of Alabama. To me, Steen is a 6'5" guard. He's good. He's strong. He's very, very strong. To me, Tyler Steen is a true guard, and I am going to take him with the third round pick. Keep in mind, PFF's mock draft simulator is a little funky, right? So I definitely hesitate with it just a little bit based off the rankings. But some of these guys that we're drafting are not going to be around as long as PFF kind of assumes they'll be around. So there's our draft so far. Let's go ahead and get into the next pick here. Linebacker is a position the Raiders definitely have to get better at. Free agency as of this morning, they haven't signed any linebackers yet, but free agency is still going on. I'm going to go ahead and wait on a linebacker for now, just to kind of go down the list of some of the top players according to PFF. Got a lot of running backs, got a couple of interior defensive linemen. I wouldn't be mad if the Raiders took a running back at this point. I think a running back does make sense. You can even take an interior defensive lineman. There's a couple of good guys available. Kobe Turner from Wake Forest. Texas has two pretty good defensive linemen. DJ Dale from Alabama. Maxwell out of Chattanooga is another player. Dante Stales. Remember, we had his brother last year on this team. Maybe that was 2 years ago. Let's look at some of the linebackers available. A couple players that are kind of interesting for me. Owen Papoe out of Auburn. I think he ran I can't remember exactly what he ran, but he ran either a low 4.3 or he ran a 4.29. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the guy was super, super fast. Kind of interesting. I'll probably stick away from getting a linebacker. Let's see if we can get a running back. I would probably target a running back. I think there are guys that you could definitely look to replace Josh Jacobs with. In my opinion, Sean Tucker's a very interesting prospect, but I'm going to take Roschon Johnson at this pick. People do say this guy is the second best running back in this class. Keep in mind, he was Bijan Robinson's backup, basically, right? Or he was the number two to him. And some people say because of that, that's hurt his value because he hasn't had a lot of production, but he's still a really, really, really good football player. So keep that in mind. Pick 142. I'm going to add a little bit of speed here. And we're going to get a corner. We're going to take the number one corner available right here, which is TCU's Trevis Hodges Tomlinson, nephew of LaDainian Tomlinson, if you guys didn't know. He's fast. Now, he is on the shorter side, but he is very, very fast. And I think that, to me, kind of provides that upside. He can maybe return some punts for the Raiders. He can definitely do a lot of things, right, for the Raiders, in my opinion. So, going to be kind of interesting. Now, we took a guard already. So, at this point, I don't know if the Raiders need another guard. But maybe you look at a tackle, a guy that you could potentially develop a little bit. Warren McClendon is an interesting option. He's definitely someone I would consider. McClendon Curtis is a guy I would consider for the guard position. There's some interesting prospects here. Dalton Wagner is a physical football player. Absolutely love him. He stuck out when we were watching the center of Arkansas, Ricky Stromberg. Dalton Wagner, man, that's a late round prospect I would definitely target. We're going to skip that on the tackles. Let's look at the quarterbacks. One of the things that the Raiders regime loves to do is kind of develop quarterbacks. And I'm going to actually take a quarterback for developmental purposes. I think this is something that we are going to do again because we just lost Jarrett Stidham. To me, There's some interesting prospects. You know, Max Duggan's right there. I don't think Duggan has the upside that some people may think he has. Stetson Bennett and Aiden O'Connell are right there. O'Connell is one of those guys that people absolutely love. You guys can see kind of some of his Pro Football Focus stuff. I'm gonna take Bennett. I think Stetson Bennett has a lot of upside. You know, he's had a lot of success. I think his biggest issue is his height, but maybe Josh McDaniels can coach him up a little bit, and maybe there's some sleeper ability in him that we haven't seen yet, right? So that's an interesting pick. We're gonna go ahead and take that right there. Let's look at an offensive tackle. Asim Richards was interesting. He was at the Senior Bowl. Didn't have that great of a Senior Bowl. Richard Garage out of Florida is the guy that I would target at this point. We're in round 5. I'm going to take him. I think there's some upside there at the tackle position where you may be able to develop this guy a little bit. Maybe he sits. Worst case scenario, you cut Brandon Parker in 2 years, and this guy takes over for Brandon Parker, and he's the long-term back, right? 5th round pick doesn't matter a whole lot. Let's see if there's any special teams players. The Raiders don't need a punter, kicker, or a long snapper. So let's just go ahead and skip that. Linebackers. Interesting at this point. I think you're really just kind of drafting based off of, upside in some of these guys. Let me uncheck special teams. I think at this point that you're just really looking for guys that have upside. Kind of interesting that Aubrey Miller is still here at Jackson State. Watched his tape recently. I think he has a lot of unique upside. He's a thumper, and I shouldn't say he's a thumper, but he will hit you, right? I would consider a linebacker here. Let's just go back and let's look at some of the safeties. The Raiders did obviously sign a safety recently. We can wait on that. Maybe a receiver. Gonna be interesting to see who's kind of available at receiver. End of the draft, let's just take a linebacker and Dorian Williams. Interesting pick. Obviously, we got a couple picks left. 6th and then a 7th round pick, and I think that's it. We might have 2 7th round picks. Another guy that I like is going to be Keaton Mitchell. If he is still here in the 6th round, I'm considering him. Very fast, very quick. Arguably the fastest for in the combine. It's going to be interesting. Let's take another guard here. We'll switch to interior offensive line and tackle, because there are some guys who are true guards, but they're listed as tackle. Let's take the UCLA guard Antonio Mafi. If there's one thing to take out of my mock drafts, it's that our offensive line is going to be fixed. Our offensive line is going to have no issues. Our offensive line is going to be legit. All right, I guarantee you guys that. Some of the safeties available. A guy that I like a lot is Jordan Howden out of Minnesota. 1 pick left, or 2 picks left, I should say. I'm going to go ahead and take the safety that I like, man. Let's take him. Let's see what happens. Let's wrap this up. Final pick, or that, I guess that was the final pick. There you guys have it right there. Post Jimmy Garoppolo. What do the Raiders actually need, right? In my opinion, personally, I think this is the perfect draft for the Raiders. If the Raiders actually do this, the Raiders are winning the Super Bowl, right? Because this right here makes us much better. Cornerback Christian Gonzalez is a day 1 starter. Will McDonald is a day 1 starter at defensive end, or at least he rotates in. He plays 70% of all the snaps. Tyler Steen is a day 1 starter at guard. In my opinion, Steen will be one of the best guards out of this class, if not the best. I can guarantee you guys that right now. Roschon Johnson, maybe the best playmaker in this class after Bijan Robinson. It's arguable. Some people aren't very high on the wide receiver, so Johnson, obviously being a running back, isn't going to go in the 1st round, but he may end up going in the 2nd or 3rd round. But if he's there in round 4, 109, I'm taking him. Tre'Davious Hodges Tomlinson, a lot of upside. And got a couple other guys there. So let me know what you guys think. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.